It's Winning Women Wednesday, celebrating women who rise, lead, and inspire. Right here with Katie and Samm.
Yeah, Katie Mohamed is in the building. Katie, I've got to play you the sound effect. I don't have a choice. Katie Mohamed is in the building. She is here. It's Winning Women Wednesday. My friend, how are you doing?
Better this week. Had a rough week last week, but better this week.
I love to hear that you're doing better. And our mission is very simple, Katie. We start this every week. It's important to let people know what the mission is. What's the mission?
Well, the mission every day is about celebrating each other, uplifting and empowering us, women and you guys as well, globally. Because like I say, when women win, we all win. Yes, that's when you should play that. When women win, we all win. Love it. So, hello and welcome to today's episode of From Doubt to Decisiveness. And I think I always surprise Sam. I don't even tell him before what we're talking about.
No, it's a masterclass.
Yes, like I said, I'm Katie Mohamed, and today we're talking about a topic that touches so many of us, but often stays unspoken. We're talking about imposter syndrome.
Ooh.
We're recording.
Ooh.
Video.
Yeah, so it's all about imposter syndrome. Ooh, why does it? In Afrikaans they say it geo grillings.
Yes.
Why does the word imposter syndrome, which is this thing that we've heard now so often, Katie? We've heard CEOs talk about it. I went to a Vodacom launch and I heard the head of the foundation talk about imposter syndrome. Why is it a word now?
Because it feels like it's something else out of your body. And I think that's why when you talk imposter syndrome, it's like it's there, it's something else. It's like a physical thing that's walking behind you. And that's why we think it's something else, right?
And for those that don't know, what is it?
So basically, imposter syndrome is something that, you might have all the academic qualifications, you have all the tools, you can do it, but I think that Sam can do it better. So you always think that somebody else can do better than you. And why should it be me? Because you know what, maybe it's Sam. I can't do it. But for me, it's having to shift. And I think I slowly have overcome imposter syndrome. And I've written part of my book is about imposter syndrome because Brave Today, because I've had to deal with imposter syndrome. But also sometimes when we deal with something like that, we talk about, let's be humble, right? And humility, excessive humility is self-sabotage.
Okay.
So
very interesting.
So you got to say, I'm good at what I do and this is who I am. So this is where I am now. Let's start with this. I used to doubt myself. Now I decide. And it's not arrogance. It's clarity, because you know exactly what you can do, what you want to do. So when you walk into rooms that you think you don't belong in, now you know you do belong in them because you've worked through the clarity of it. So you've got to shift from hesitation, because we all hesitate, to conviction. So, Maya Angelou had written 11 books.
Yeah, I remember this.
And she couldn't escape the nagging doubt that she hadn't earned her accomplishments.
Yeah, I remember this.
Albert Einstein experienced something similar, and he described himself as an involuntary swindler. That his work didn't deserve as much attention
and
as it was getting. So if you look at the accomplishments of Angelou's and the Einsteins of the world, right, if they were feeling fraudulent, because that's what it is, it's about feeling fraudulent, after they are giants in the world, right? They're icons, they're legends, right? So why can't so many of us shake this feeling that we haven't earned our accomplishments, that our ideas and skills aren't worthy of attention? So there's a psychologist, Pauline Rose Klein, who was the first to study imposter syndrome. And she was trying to understand this unwarranted sense of her students in university at that time, that said that they actually questioned their A pluses because they felt that it was an administrative error. So they go to her and they were like, no, there's something wrong. We all have. So that's when she started the study and said, okay, what is this? Why are people that are so good? And then she realized even herself as a psychologist also experienced that. And that was something that was so important, is that we go back to understanding what are the different names that it comes. So we call it imposter syndrome, we call it imposter experience, we call it an imposter phenomenon. So we see it come through various ages. I mean, I was speaking to the boys outside, is that we see it in the younger generation, we see it in the older generation. But I don't know about you guys, but I know that we see it in women a lot. So you got to tell me, do guys also experience imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and I think to your point, Albert Einstein experienced it too, but I'm 100% sure I think men experience it in different ways as well. And there's also imposter syndrome when you think of, for example, outcome versus output. You sometimes, even as a person, I'm not saying this is a general feeling, but there is this idea sometimes that you cosplay as a father, or you cosplay as a caring parent, or, so that's also a form for me of imposter syndrome in many ways. And then also I think part of it is the unrealistic high expectation that you create for yourself, which are all kind of attributes of this idea that you are cosplaying as this person that has these achievements, these results, the recognition, the qualification, the inputs and the outputs at work, how people relate to you. So yeah, I think it filters through many things.
And we often use this word, we're winging it. I'm just winging it, right?
Yeah. I'm winging it as a parent.
I'm winging it as a parent. I'm winging it as a partner. I'm winging it, right? But that means we downplay. We're downplaying it. So where do these feelings of fraudulence come from? Because people who are highly skilled or highly accomplished think that others that are just as skilled, and I said this before, because we can spiral into these feelings that we don't deserve accolades, we don't deserve opportunities, somebody else does it. And I think if you think about Angelou and Einstein, they already have put like a threshold of fraudulency. So who are we? Like if you think about it, right?
If you at that level feel some sense of imposter syndrome, how is somebody that is still on their way to kind of on their way in terms of the industry, their career, to their greatness, how should they then feel? So
the feelings of imposterism is not only highly skilled people.
Yeah.
Highly skilled individuals. So everyone is susceptible. But there's another thing called pluralistic ignorance.
Okay.
So it's that we doubt ourselves privately, and then when we sit together, we're like, actually, I also feel like that. And then Tim would say, I also feel like that. Yeah. So the most important thing is we start talking about it. And then we realize that we're not alone. Yeah. So there's no easy way to dismiss these feelings. And we will talk about now how to combat your own imposter syndrome. And the most important thing is by collecting and revisiting feedback that we have. So if we, if we had a presentation, ask people, so how do you think I did? I think I often do that with you as well. It's like after an event. So I think that's an important thing is asking, like, what do you think about it?
Even when you're killing it on stage.
Yeah, thank you. But even after I leave here, I even asked him and you guys, so what did you think about it? And they would like, so it's important because you know that you can level up the next time.
Yeah.
Even though you don't need to, but for yourself, you need to level up. So there's this ugly thing that we call this inner critic. We all have it, right?
Sometimes that voice is louder than the voices on the outside telling you you've done amazingly well.
And the inner critic has a script.
Yeah.
And we need to change that script. So imposter syndrome isn't just a buzzword. It is that quiet voice that says, who do you think you are? Especially when you land the job, people would say, oh, you got lucky. You're so lucky.
People, we should give them the middle finger.
I mean,
when you have somebody who tells you after going through 3 interviews you're lucky, you should give them the middle finger.
And when you get recognition for something and you're like, oh yeah, it's because you this. It's always something else, right? Yeah. So it's the
labeling, right?
Absolutely.
It's
the script many highly achieving women play in their minds, and it sounds like I'm not ready. Someone else could do this better. What if they found out that I don't actually know what I'm doing? You know, that's that whole winging it. So sometimes I used to think, oh my God, you know, because I don't have all these PhDs and
academics and degrees.
And these academics, and I'm like, you know, I call myself a communication strategist. I can do this in my sleep.
So I have to say this. I literally wrote an article. I think I sent it to you. I'm not sure if I did.
You did.
And I literally, on the back of this conversation that Joe Rogan and Douglas Murray had about who's the expert and who's not the expert, and whether you're an expert, can you commentate, and whether you have do I need to have been in, for example, Gaza to be able to talk about Gaza? So it's kind of on the button in terms of when you talk about skills versus credibility versus this idea that who has the right to commentate and commentary. So it's a very interesting topic.
Because we know we can perform, right? In everything that we do. We can, I mean, these days things are so easy, right? We succeed in everything that we do because you don't get up every day to say, I'm going to do something and I don't want to succeed, because then you don't belong on Earth. You literally should just, you know, find yourself in Mars. And the thing about us is because we like to be productive, we deliver. Whether it's with clients, whether it's with our families, whether it's with our friends, we deliver. But there's still that lingering doubt that we are frauds. But I think we also need to understand that we are not alone. There are other people in the
Even academics.
Yeah, absolutely. And imposter syndrome thrives in isolation.
Okay. I love that.
Right. So
that makes perfect sense to me.
So then you need to start naming it. Like what I talk about it in my book. I use an Arabic word called matlabi, which means like a parasite. You know, it's like a parasite. You gotta get rid of this parasite that's in your brain. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the cost of playing small. And that's when it's like, you know, who do you think you are? And you're like, now I'm like, I am Katie Mohamed. Because people, you got to like, do you dim your light? And what I've learned about...
Very important question to asking.
What I've learned about is that doubt has a cost. Because when you play safe, you're not protecting your humility. You are sacrificing your power. And that has a ripple effects, right? Because the saddest part of all of that is that the world misses out. It misses out on our ideas, it misses out on our leadership and our brilliance and even our energy. Because now you're like, I'm too afraid to speak because there's a Josh Rogan there. But you don't know, you can just walk up to Josh Rogan and say hello, right?
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. Playing small doesn't serve anyone. Not you and not the people who need your voice. And I think we always have to think about others as well. That's the most important thing. Which leads me to talk about confidence is not equal to arrogance. And I've learned that recently.
You know, there was a moment I interviewed Samuel L. Jackson, right? This was many, many years ago. And I think it was Cry the Beloved Country or something. They were doing a tour. It was him and it was Brendan, I can't remember his name, the big Irish actor, and there was the this other female, very well-known actress. And I asked Samuel a question I really thought was brilliant. I said to him, you know, does he feel the weight of South Africans when he plays a role, especially issues like Mandela's story is a story that all South Africans have lived. And Africans to a degree in the rest of the world, but we as South Africans, we've lived that story. We still live those stories. We still echo some of those mantras and the things that he talked about.
The wrong question to an actor.
Yeah. Literally is the wrong question. Because the idea was that when you do kind of biographical content, there's the... What is the relationship between keeping it truthful?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted to kind of unearth. And he was like, no, I'm an actor. I'm trained.
Absolutely. It's his job.
Every day. It's a job.
And he's unapologetic about it.
I was super deflated. I set it up nicely.
So you wanted a deep response.
He was like, I'm an actor. This is what I do. This is what I get paid for. This is what I train for. This is a role like any other role.
But that's a confidence. It's not even arrogance.
But for a moment there, it took me about 6, 7, 8 months to really think about it. At that moment, I thought he was quite arrogant.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
So. But looking back at it now, This is a confident, capable individual who has done this craft for too many decades to be flustered.
And
by
he's got to be this person on this movie and that person that movie. You don't expect him to take on all these issues.
That professional, he's a professional.
Yeah.
And professionals are competent people.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest blocks to overcoming imposter syndrome is this idea that confidence equals arrogance. We've been conditioned to believe that being self-assured is somehow egotistical.
Yes.
That being decisive makes us difficult. I've been called difficult, and I'm like, no, I'm actually decisive. I know exactly what I want. But I always say, let me be clear, confidence is not the enemy. It's the evidence. This is what I am. This is what I can deliver on. I've done the work.
And in actual fact, if you're the person that gets irked and gets rubbed up every time somebody knows who they are, maybe you're the problem. You should leave the room.
You're the problem. And also, we show up and we delivered. So, I mean, it's not arrogance, it's confidence, right? And clarity, again, I always been speaking about clarity now. Clarity is not arrogance. It's knowing who you are, what you stand for, and just refusing to apologize for it, right? And so how do we get to the point of creating this idea of working through this? Is we have to reframe our thoughts, right? When that inner critic says, I'm not qualified, reframe it to something like, I bring a unique perspective that no one else does. And reclaim your voice. So speak when your voice shakes, especially then, because courage lives in the discomfort. And rise up to your role. You don't
love that.
You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more of you, who you already are. And that's what sometimes the world can't manage, right?
And they can't deal with it. And the ones that embrace that, and the ones that are truly understand that. I mean, look, I'm not discounting the day-to-day issues that people face, but if you are a little bit brave today, if you're braver today than you were yesterday, and you're a little bit more brave the day before, and that doesn't have to be when you see a couple fight, you interject or you step in. But if you're just braver today with who you are as a person and the stuff that you hold dear and valuable, you live a much better life.
But
you're gonna live a much better life.
But that's the magic, right? The magic of being brave today. Don't have to do it for tomorrow. Don't have to do it for yesterday. Just get up today and be brave. And I think that's what we're trying to do with each other, is really trying to say that we have one life, we have one body, we have one brain. How do we take everything that we learn and we create this magic of getting up and being brave today? So, I just want to read one of my DMs that I get a lot of DMs, and one of them, because I posted the promo this morning, and she says, I keep waiting to feel ready, but what if ready isn't a feeling? And I said to her, but what if it's a decision? Because it shouldn't be about a feeling, it's about a decision. I'm going to do this. It's sort of like, oh my God, how do I feel? But no, it's a decision. What do you want to do? And then somebody else said to me, I used to walk into boardrooms and pray not to be noticed. And I said to them,
wow.
My response was, well, now you make sure that you are remembered. Don't worry about not being noticed and being remembered in a positive light, of course, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. So,
I love that. That's being brave today.
That's being brave today. So we might never banish feelings altogether, but we can have open conversations about academic and professional challenges, because we know that it is frequent. And, if we are freer and frank with our feelings, oh, that's the FFFF here. If we are on a t-shirt. If we are freer and frank with our feelings, I think it helps us get through. We are not arrogant. We are so confident in what we do. And I think we need to encourage that. We need to encourage each other.
I like it.
And we need to build confidence in the simple truths. That you have to believe that you are talented. You have to believe that you are capable. And most importantly, I get this from, I think, myself and everybody else, is that you belong. You belong in rooms that you think that you don't.
It's so interesting when you think of what imposter syndrome withholds you from. That if you, like you said, it's very parasitic. And if you allow it to grow into this thing that metastasizes into part of your personality. It frames itself, it wraps, it strangleholds your personality, the person that you need to be. You will miss out on so much.
And like I said, you miss out. You will, and the world will misses out on you, your authentic you. And I think sometimes we call it syndrome. We downplay how universal it is. It is not a disease or an abnormality. And it's not necessarily, and I think the most important thing, people think it's tied to low self-esteem, possibly depression or anxiety. And I think we need to change that mindset, is that we know that, because, anytime there's a syndrome, we say that there's an issue. It's not an issue. It's an internal inner critic that we need to talk ourselves through. And I think that's the most important thing. So we've spoken about our inner critic. We've spoken about the cost of playing small. We've spoken about how confidence does not equal arrogance, and how that we need to reclaim in order for us to rise. So, we have to remember that imposter syndrome might be loud, but your truth is louder. So in your head, imposter syndrome says, well, Katie, who do you think you are? But the truth is, I am Katie Mohamed. I am an author. This is louder than that inner critic saying.
Because there's a body of evidence.
As a body of evidence. And if we look at that body of evidence, it's there. So I think don't wait for the fear to disappear, because sometimes we're like, okay, I've got to speak, but let me just breathe, count to 10, and then you're like, okay, fine, the fear's gone. But it's too late, because the meeting's over.
Yeah.
The opportunity's gone.
Or maybe use Mel Robbins' 5-second rule.
Use the 5-second rule.
Yeah.
And I think the 5-second rule is really good, because that's the 5 second you have.
I used it this morning. It was so cold. And I wanted to kind of hover in bed.
You go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get.
Out.
And I know. The 5-second rule is really great. It actually challenges, because then you've taken action, right? So you've taken action alongside this. So I think closing thoughts is you belong in every room you walk in, not because of your title, not because of your degree, but because you have value, you have vision, and you have a voice.
Yeah.
And it's not about becoming arrogant. And I know I get this often. People are like, oh, I don't want to be seen like I'm arrogant. It's about becoming clear. Again, it's about clarity.
And this thing that hit me yesterday, I was sitting with this, I was watching this YouTube video. And this person said, like, please get over yourself. We don't care as much as you think we care about you. We don't.
Just said that.
Yeah, like literally, it was this video where this guy just said, for every person you think that cares about whether you are having a good day or not, they don't. People are self-absorbed. They're about their stuff. So if you're worried about, I'm scared about what other people think, they're not even thinking about you.
Yeah, but you're doing it for yourself. And the moment you realize that you're doing it for yourself, whether it's 200 views whether it's 4 views, whether it's 4 views, it's you're doing it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
sometimes, get over yourself.
And sometimes one thing makes such a difference. One little thing that you said and I know, I feel it, I see it, and I think the feedback that you get is you'll get 50 positives, and then you'll get the one negative.
And then you obsess about, why did they say that?
And you obsess about the one, So last week I got off in the middle of the road and ran across
I saw the video.
to move that in my high heels, right? But in that moment,
you're gonna be knocked over by a car.
But I didn't think.
Just explain that there was this huge piece of debris in the middle of the road.
Well, it was a truck, inner truck tire thing.
Yeah, and then
a steel thing.
You stopped on the side of the road, ran across 2 lanes, picked it up, and kind of removed it out of the way for anybody else who might either drive over it or damage their car.
In high heels, in peak time. So what
happened? That was missing was the cape.
So not every hero wears capes. So what happened was I was stalling there, and I saw this big steel thing on the middle of the road, and I asked the pedestrian, and I said to him kindly, I said, "Sir, would you mind moving it?" He looked at me dead in the eye, and he said, "No." And then jump out of the car and I run across the road, get that steel thing, walk across and put it there. But I didn't think that the friend of mine that was there, because I was busy talking to a friend on the car phone, but I didn't realize the person that was in the car recorded me. So I had a lot of people that was like, oh my, that's so great and this and that. And then you'll have one person that says, but why do you have to record something? So I was like, but then 25,000 views and 20,000 views on TikTok or 24,000 views on TikTok. And you're like, well, people did see it. That you get people to think that don't wait for somebody else. Yeah. Just get out there with your high heels and do it. So for me, it's that kind of thing. After every 50 guesses, that one no, like, who the hell are you to say that I shouldn't have had that recorded?
So what is our, as we wrap up, what's our big winning Women Wednesday tip?
So I say this every day, is remind yourself that you decide. And it's not about doubt, it's about decisiveness now. So thank you for spending this time with me. Let's keep the conversation going. Share this episode. It's on YouTube. Share this episode, tag us, and most importantly, choose clarity over doubt. And I speak about clarity. This is my buzzword for the year. Choose clarity over doubt, because that's where the confidence comes from. So
yeah, and they can go to your platform. Tom will send you the video and the audio.
Yes,
and stuff.
And on my platform, Katie Mohamed. And just reminding yourself that you decide, do not doubt, and own your voice.